closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Sum Up. Today we are talking about closings. Closings are probably the biggest part of your lesson that's going to get skipped over or cut out because of time. So when we think about this, a good closing is so great at wrapping up our lesson. It makes it feel like a complete lesson and not just all this learning and then we're leaving, or we're on the computer, oh hurry, everybody put it up and let's go. A closing really wraps up that lesson. It's going to go over any misconceptions. You're going to kind of get those solved right before kids leave and really tie up any loose ends and have them kind of regurgitate and think about their learning prior to leaving for the day. So as we talked about a second ago, time is the biggest issue. A lot of times we run out of time. So one way that you can make sure you leave time for a closing is every cell phone now basically has the ability to set multiple alarms. Get on your phone and set an alarm 5 minutes before every bell. Then another way that you can get yourself thinking about a closing, and this is what I have done that really kind of changed it for me and helped me to remember it better, is think about bell work. So one of the reasons we remember bell work every day is because we give our kids a bell work sheet. So lots of us print off a page that has boxes for our bell work or the questions on it or whatever, and we hand it to them. Well, on the back of that bell work sheet, just make a closing sheet and have boxes for your closing. So then your kids are going to see it and they're going to probably bring it up, and after you do it a couple days, they're going to help remind you. So we've got your bell work on one side and your closing sheet on the back, and you're all good to go. Okay, so let's get into like some really easy, quick ways that you can have a great closing to wrap up your lesson. Alright, so the first one let's talk about is a $2 summary. So we've talked about writing summaries in the past in another video, so I'm not going to go into that too much. A $2 summary is just a really fun and kind of different take on a normal summary. It's an Avid strategy is what this kind of is taken from. And basically they're going to write a summary, but they only have a certain amount of money to use. So here's an example. So in this example of a $2 summary, they have, of course, $2 to spend. They need to spend all $2. Vocab words that are listed in the box, so you're kind of giving them a menu, cost a penny. All other words that they use in their summary cost a nickel each. So every word that they write down costs money. So this really forces them to be choosy with their words and really condense all of their learning down to just maybe even 2 sentences. The reason that the words in the box are cheaper is because we want them to use vocabulary. So like in this example is over equations. So we have words like equations, variable, constant, so on. We want them to use these words in their summary. So we're going to make them cheaper, and all other words cost a nickel. They can only spend $2 when they're done. Have them partner share it real fast before they leave, and maybe even have a student read it out loud to the class. This gets them writing as well as really kind of problem solving because they only have a certain amount of money to spend to write their summary. Okay, and again, this is called a $2 summary. Okay, so the second type of closing we're going to talk about is just a closing question, and I use this one a lot with my kids. It was kind of my comfort zone, safe space closing that I would always go back to. So it's really simple. You as the teacher are just picking a question that you think really hits on whatever the main standard or the main topic you were trying to get across today was, and then as they're answering it by themselves, you get to walk around and see and check for misconceptions, and it's a really quick way for you to see as they wrap up the lesson, did they get what I wanted? So here's an example of an actual closing question. The date on this PowerPoint that I got this from was in May, so it's towards the end of the year when we were doing scientific notation. I actually posed this question to my kids. So I was having them work with scientific notation. I created the question, then I let the kids answer it. Before they left though, and as we've talked about so many times, it's important to let them partner share it and then let somebody come up and either put it on the document camera or have them share out their answer and go over what you're thinking as they leave. But this is an easy way with a closing question to wrap up the lesson with exactly what you're looking for. So the next type of closing you can do is called a cheat sheet. So basically you're just putting this prompt up on the screen and having the students work. So it says in the next 2 minutes, create a cheat sheet over what we covered today. Write down anything you think would be important. Pretend you'll be able to use this information on your next quiz you may actually get to. So basically in the cheat sheet, they're just writing down anything that comes to mind that would help them on a quiz over what we did today. So basically, we're getting them to cull through all the information that we covered today and pick out what's important and write that down. This is different than a summary. A summary is obviously very structured with sentences and frames and things like that. This cheat sheet can be anything that's bulleted. It could be equations. It could be an example problem. It could be a little blurb that's going to help them remember something. Whatever comes to mind that has to do with today's topic, that would help them if they could use this little slip or little box or cheat sheet on a quiz. Then again, you could go back and have them partner share what each person picked out to put on their cheat sheet, and then popcorn out and have other students around the room share one thing they put on their cheat sheet, compare it to the class. Okay, so this is the third one, cheat sheet, short and simple, really easy and effective. Alright guys, so our fourth type of closing is called What Did I Do Wrong? And basically you're just going to put up a problem that you've worked out ahead of time incorrectly. And sometimes I would even do a whole class period of questions like this. This is something that you want to do later on in a unit. So if you've spent 3 or 4 or 5 days over the same topic, these are great problems to start throwing in, especially as a closing, to really see if they understand and grasp the concept. So there's a problem that's worked out incorrectly, then on their closing sheet, they're going to go in and they're going to rework the problem. They're going to find where my mistake was and explain what they did differently to do the problem right. So there's the incorrect problem. They work it out correctly. What did I do wrong when I first worked it out, and then explain what they did differently to do the problem right. So again, really fun and really cool. The kids used to like these ones a lot. And again, you could even turn this into a whole class period of these types of questions. So, what did I do wrong? Alright guys, our fifth and final type of closing has to do with Mathia and iReady. So if kids are on the computer all class period, that doesn't mean we have to forego our closing, because the closing really is so important, guys. So all it takes is maybe a little bit more planning. We need to get the computers put up maybe a couple minutes earlier to make this happen. And really the example that I'm going to show you that you can use with Mathia and iReady, you're going to want to give them ahead of time. So I would put this up on the board at the beginning of class, and they're going to work towards this to be ready to share for our closing at the end. So here's what I'm talking about. So at the beginning of class, as they're getting started, I would put this up on the board and explain it and go over kind of what I'm looking for, especially the first couple times. But as you can see, it says, while working today, please answer the following questions from one problem. So number one says, what skill did the problem cover? So as they're working through Mathia and they come across a problem that they're doing, they're going to write down what skill it covered, what we worked on in class that relates to this. What vocabulary did you need to know in order to work this problem and include the definitions? And then finally, did you get the problem correct on the first try? Because we all know that a lot of them don't the first try, and they're using a lot of hints or they're doing other things to try and get it after that. So if you didn't get it correct the first time, what did you do differently in order to get the correct answer? So seeing if they can explain their thinking of what they actually did to problem solve. So they would fill this out for one of the questions that they do. Obviously, we're hoping they do multiple questions throughout the class period. Then at the end of class, I would have computers put away like normal, and the last 5 minutes of class, we would spend going over this. So they would share their questions with their table partners, and then we would share a couple around the room, and that would really wrap up our learning. So even though they were on computers all day, they can still have to explain what skills they covered, what vocab they needed, and then their thinking and their problem solving throughout the process. So again, even though they're on Mathia or iReady, you can still have a great closing. Alright guys, so there's 5 short, sweet, and easy closings that you can use in class. Remember, the time we have with our students is so valuable. We want to use it. I've heard it said, teach bell to bell, and that's what we need to be thinking. So how are we wrapping up our classes at the end? Every minute that we have them matters, and we're going to use it. You guys are awesome. You've done such a great job this year. I've really enjoyed it. Keep up the great work. If you have any questions, as always, let me know, and have a great rest of your Sunday.